I'm going to begin again just by asking, because this is your first time working with Robert Zemeckis. I mean, one of the great living directors. What was it like to finally collaborate with him?
That was fantastic. I have to say, I've had the pleasure of working with some amazing filmmakers, the best I think in the industry, and Bob adds to that list. And one of the nicest guy one would ever meet, and so grounded and so clear on the story he's telling. I mean, when you get on that set for the first day of shooting, he's got the whole film mapped out in his head, every single shot, every detail, and was talking early on about the lovemaking scene in the car and how he wanted two cameras twirling and the windstorm coming. And it's Bob Zemeckis. It's still, I still find it hard to believe I just did a Bob Zemeckis film. It's amazing.
I mean, you've been in this industry quite a long time with some incredible people, but you still get that kind of feeling of, blimey, I'm working with this guy.
Yes, yeah, all the time. When you're actually in it every day, you don't realize, who you're working with or how you're working. You're focused on trying to make the film, and all become a family. And working with Zemeckis, working with Steve Knight and Brad and Marion, I mean, it was just an amazing team.
I mean, the film kind of harks back affectionately to classic Hollywood endeavours. I mean, was it quite a challenge to have that kind of stylised approach, and yet at the same time, all try not to be a pastiche in any way? That must have been, was that quite a fine line to...
Yes, it was. I mean, Steve, came to my office 6-7 years ago and pitched me this story, and he got halfway through the pitch and I stopped him as soon as he said, "Your wife might be a German spy," and I said, "Go and write that." And I, first of all, it fed into the kind of films that I like to make, but it also it was such original storytelling, and I think from what I hear from people all over the world is there's not enough original storytelling coming out of Hollywood. So when you get a screenplay like this, you get the likes of Bob Zemeckis and Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard that come to you and say, "We'd love to play this role." So it was one of the easiest movies I've ever cast.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though it's an incredible original story, I was still kind of anticipating based on a true story at the beginning of the movie, but it's genuinely just all completely
there is somewhat of a story that Steve had heard maybe 30 years ago from somebody he was dating or something that gave him the essence, told him the essence of this story. And of course we elaborated and changed everything for the movie-going audiences. Casablanca literally came out of Steve and I going, "Well, where should we put the first act? Because it can't be in London." "Oh, just put it in Casablanca." It wasn't really like, let's make a remake of Casablanca or look at the films from the past. And again, what I'm hoping on this is that we work this week at the box office, so Hollywood won't be nervous of making these kind of films. I take my hat off to Paramount for really supporting the picture.
And do you think that the kind of the role of the leading stars in Hollywood now has changed to the point that, do we still have the kind of Humphrey Bogarts today that we did then, or has it kind of changed the way our relationship with kind of leading actors and actresses in Hollywood?
Well, I think everything's changed, because years ago we would only see these stars once a year on a red carpet or now and again, and now you see them every day on the internet, and so it's not a big deal to see a movie star. There's nothing secret about being a movie star anymore. And I think, again, audience show us that it's about the storytelling more than it is about who's in it.
And I was wondering too, I mean, one of the things I love was the depiction of London, because even it's very easy to portray doom and gloom in the midst of kind of World War II, but there's something quite uplifting, and there's a real kind of spirit to the British public in this movie.
Yes, there is. And, for me, it was a very personal story, because I come from North London. So, in the script, when it said Finchley Hospital and talks about Hampstead Heath and the Royal Free Hospital, which I'd spent a lot of time in growing up, it all felt like I was coming home to make a film. And I would always wanted to make a World War II film. But, this is more of the World War II is more of a backdrop to these two characters' story.
Coming up for you, you've got Tomb Raider, of course, with Alicia Vikander now in the lead role. I mean, what can fans expect that'll be slightly different, maybe tonally, from the Angelina Jolie film?
Well, this is kind of what we call a back to the roots story. This is a young Lara Croft in search to see if her father's dead or alive. So it has a very emotional part to it, and I think that's what Alicia found so interesting about it. So I think the storytelling is really good, and I think we've got the right crew and a great director, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun making a film like this.
And just finally, the TV series of The Departed as well. I mean, what in regards to that one, is that a kind of retelling of the same story or a continuation? I mean, what's the kind of idea behind the narrative?
No, it's actually starting again and adding to it, and it takes place in Chicago right now. It's in very early development stage, so we're still kind of playing around with the characters and the script. But Warner's just thought it was a great idea that we give this a shot. So, do you
think that could be a trend that we can see kind of movies turning into? I mean, The Truman Show was one that obviously also got spoken about.
Right.
Do you reckon we see more of these?
Well, I think TV is kind of overtaken film, right, in a way. I remember showing Allied to a bunch of 21-year-olds, and they said it's the best thing they'd seen since television. So that says it all right there. And I think, there's some subject matters that should be told in a long form way, and theatrical experiences can't sustain a 4-hour movie or so. So I think if you've got a lot to say in a story and you've got a lot of different characters all blending in, you can kind of take your time and give an audience a lot more breathing room about each character and who they are in a world like Departed, where we could really have some fun with it.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time today. Much appreciated.
Great.
Cheers. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!